Thank you for joining us on Africa 24. You made the best choice. Thank you for trusting us. Nigeria is about to play a key role in the dynamics of intra-African trade. Lagos, the country's economic capital and a mega city of over 20 million inhabitants, will host the next edition of the Intra-African Trade Fair, a major event that brings together investors, policymakers, and private sector actors to boost trade exchanges across the continent. In the context where the AfCFTA opens new prospects, the country is at the heart of issues related to economic diversification and investment attractiveness. To discuss these, we welcome Mrs. Jumoke ODUWOLE, Minister of Trade and Investment of Nigeria. Mrs. Minister, welcome to Africa 24.
Thank you very much.
We would like to find out, during the IATF 2023 in Cairo, Nigerian companies secured about $11 billion in signed agreements, the highest among all participating countries. What specific financial initiatives have you implemented or planned to launch to further support Nigerian exporting SMEs in realizing their commercial potential within the AfCFTA framework?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. I don't even know where to start from. But just to say that AfCFTA is the tool, it's the key that Nigeria is using for our acceleration of non-oil exports. That's where we're prioritizing under the Tinubu administration. And so we've been working systemically on actualizing and implementing the AfCFTA agreement. So to start with, from a policy framework, we released just about 2 months ago our fifth-year implementation of the AfCFTA. That's mandated under the agreement, but Nigeria is the first country, and I believe the only one so far, to actualize that deliverable. And that tells us where businesses are, what they're doing, where they want to trade. Now, we took that practical information, and for instance, we opened an air cargo corridor. We negotiated with Uganda Air and exporters from Nigeria. We also did trade intelligence, which is an important part of what we do. We mapped out 13 Eastern and Southern African countries to find out what kind of goods they wanted from Nigeria. We saw they wanted apparel, cosmetics, light manufacturing, food, snacks. And so those companies are able to move their goods through Uganda Air to that region. I was just coming from the ECOWAS Pavilion, where, again, supported by UNDP, we've been working particularly with female-owned businesses, exporters, across leather, cosmetics, coffee. We've match-made ECOWAS businesses with, again, pairs from Southern and Eastern Africa. These are just some of the initiatives, and there's several. We launched the WIDE about 2 weeks ago with WTO and ITC, and that just speaks to continental trade coming together. Here we are today in North Africa, making sure that that connectivity is all across the board. Nigeria is the connector between West and Central Africa, but also between Northern and Southern Africa. And so it's really a pleasure to be here at this moment.
You're somehow anticipated on the next question, but I'll get to here. Thanks to those policies that Nigeria implemented, we've noticed that the country recorded about 13% in just 2 years in its intra-African exports, thanks to those trade corridors you just mentioned. But now talking about budgetary policies, can you tell us what incentives are intended to encourage the building of regional value chains in order to transform trade boom into sustainable value chains for Nigerian economy and for the sub-region in general?
Well, I'll just start with noting that even the toughest critics know that the Tinubu administration has stabilized the Nigerian economy. We used to have a lot of foreign exchange volatility, but that has been sorted in the last couple of years. So monetary policy, removal of subsidies, that's done. We also, on the fiscal side, revamped our tax architecture, and the new tax act kicks in on the 1st of January 2026. That's also done. And with trade policy, I talked about AfCFTA and the things we've done in that space. There's also things we've done in the bilateral space. We've been to Brazil, we've been to China, we've been to a number of places. We're negotiating agreements. And just in a global level, we're also still part of the multilateral trading system. Africa will be hosting WTO's Ministerial Conference 14, Cameroon in Q1 in March of next year, 2026. And so we're actively getting ready and supporting in that process. So it's concentric circles from bilateral to sub-regional to regional to multilateral. And that's really the way it should be on the policy end. On investment, which I shouldn't forget, and then we're here with AfCFTA. I'm just coming from the launch of Investopedia. That's our sub-nationals, Nigerian Governors Forum. All the governors across the federation came together to set up a fund with AfCFTA for investment, to attract investment. That's another key pillar under our mandate, and making sure that that is what delivers prosperity. So investment mobilization, the administration is also giving a lot of attention to our domestic investors who are the best advertisement for foreign investment. And we've been out, like from January, we've been like all the circuits from Davos all the way back. We've spoken with your outlet a number of times, and just to share that Nigeria is open for business, Africa is open for business, and with the global headwinds, tariffs are now on everybody's lips, we need to remain focused. I spoke at the African ministers responsible for trade. We had a meeting yesterday, a round table, and I made the point that we have to prioritize ourselves with intentionality. So this fair is important in actuality. We're also here gathering market intelligence, trade intelligence, who's interested in Nigerian goods, all the people buying from our pavilions, and also where Nigerians are interested, those linkages that businesses make. We really have to go with private sector. So governments have to follow businesses. Businesses, if you don't allow them trade, they'll smuggle, because what they want to do is trade. And so our head of customs will be hosting all the customs heads on 17th to 19th of November in Abuja, Nigeria, just to make sure that trade facilitation is an actuality. So these are some of the concrete things that we've been doing across the last couple of years to make sure that the AfCFTA is an actual, impactful agreement.
All right, then talking about, when it comes to trade, we talk about assets, we talk about commodities. What are those you want to capitalize on for that edition of the IATF that is coming around?
Well, I would say that for trade in goods, we prioritize a lot of agribusiness, agro-processed goods. We had just a nice discussion on shea nut and how we're keeping it in so that it becomes shea butter, it becomes processed. A lot of our women farmers farm shea nut, and it's about 21 African countries. This is something that grows only on the continent and is used in almost every cosmetic. It's used in chocolate, and so it's a premium commodity. We also have cocoa, we have coffee, we have a lot of things that the world wants. But how do we add value and keep more of that value on the continent before it goes out? So agribusiness is a big one. Every infrastructure challenge, I call them infrastructure opportunities. That's where our investors can come in for big transactions. And so working with them, we also have some tools to de-risk some of those transactions in Nigeria. So we work on de-risking some of those investment infrastructure opportunities. It would be remiss of me not to mention services. Like Nigeria's GDP leads on services, over 50%. And indeed, Africa's services and the GDP of the world leads on services also. The way the world is going with AI and with so many other things, services is really the way to go. So e-commerce and then tech-enabled businesses, that's really the way to go. So as digital trade champions for AfCFTA, we continue to prioritize that mandate. We continue to work on it. We work with the AfCFTA Secretariat very closely, looking at how digital public infrastructure like single windows, like immigration, like identity issues, like payment solutions, like PAPs can deliver for African businesses.
Let's now get to the heart of this discussion. I said it in the introduction. Nigeria will host the next edition of the IATF. Yes. That will take place in Lagos. What objectives are you setting to ensure that that edition will be a full success?
Now, the thing about hosting, this is the largest trade fair in Africa, and indeed one of the largest in the world. We're expecting no less than 30,000 visitors in Lagos. Over 2,000 exhibited here, and you know the location of Lagos is so central to Western and Central African countries that we're expecting quite a big number of exhibitors and attendees at the fair. Now, the economic benefits to hosting a trade fair like this are exponential. And the connectivity, we're also bringing a digital element because as digital trade co-champions, also you know Nigeria leads with technology, especially with fintech. About 50% of the unicorns on the continent are of Nigerian extraction. And so we'll be bringing not just the physical, but a virtual technology-driven element to the next trade fair. I didn't mean to let the cat out of the bag, but your smile got me. So in terms of exponential sort of scaling of the impact of the fair, that's where we're thinking the direction. Also, with CANEX, Nigeria is a melting pot of culture for the continent. Afrobeat, Nollywood, name it. So the expectations are pretty high. Yesterday's concert had Wizkid headlining the concert, and I said to him, this fair is coming to Lagos next. And he said, that's home. Like, so all our Afrobeat stars, all our Nollywood stars, everything with food, with fashion. This is Nigerian. You know what our fashion is like. Jollof rice, you know you don't have to go any further. So CANEX next year, and then 2027, the fair itself. And why is this important? It's good for Africa to have connectivity. When people meet each other, they have an affinity. This is my first time in Algeria. I've been to other parts of Northern Africa, but it's always good to be here. Even with a language barrier of Arabic and French, we're still having a great time. So economically, it's going to have a multiplier effect for Nigeria. We're getting ready. It's an opportunity for more hotel beds. It's an opportunity for more infrastructure. It's an opportunity for expanding businesses. That is why countries bid to host events like this. So there's this very serious business part of hosting a trade fair, and then there's obviously the fun part. We want to host. We're hospitable people. We want you to have your Afrobeats, your jollof rice, name it, your clothes. We'll hook you up.
Dr. Oduwole, thank you very much for answering our questions.
See you in Lagos.
See you in Lagos.
Yes.
Ladies and gents, thank you for following this edition of The Interview. See you very soon for another one. Take care.